All right, so can you tell us a little bit about Ormus and genetically modified foods, like how the Ormus can actually affect GMOs?
What seems to happen with the mechanism for the Ormus material, it's a superconductive material. And in us, what it appears to be doing, it forms something called a Meissner field around our DNA. And when it forms this Meissner field, it completely shuts out external electrical and magnetic fields from the DNA. And in this condition, the electrical activity of the DNA, and this has been measured, increases to over 1,000,000 times normal. When it does this, damaged DNA then seems to have the ability to correct itself back to its original blueprint, and from that point on it starts to produce the correct material rather than the material that it was producing because of the damage that it incurred. So what seems to happen in cancers, most cancers or all cancers, are damaged DNA replicating itself incorrectly because the damage didn't kill it off completely. So when you use the Ormus, what it is allowing it to do is to correct the problem on its own and then produce the correct material after that point. Now you still have to change the course of events that led to the cancer. You have to correct diets, you have to get rid of carcinogens, you have to try and clean up your nutrition and your water. This is all important. We need to be taking materials in as they were originally created, if possible, or as close to that as possible. So anyway, this is what the Ormus material seems to allow us to do. Now, these are morning glories, and we grew these in our backyard. And what we did, the blue morning glory, we soaked the seeds in Ormus overnight and then planted them. The pink morning glory was planted on the opposite side of a two-sided trellis. And these are pictures when everything grew up to the top and overlapped. And we had some really nice pictures of the larger the plant. And again, we assumed this is the cause for Ormus. We've never seen flowers this size, the morning glories. Anyway, about a year later, when the plant regrew, the blue plant, all right, and these are obviously cultivars. A cultivar is a plant that's been managed and slightly altered to improve flowers and what have you. Anyway, the blue plant regrew with small whitish flowers on it, and it regrew back as the original morning glory plant without the alterations that were done to it by the cultivars. Today we've got genetic modification by inserting genes, but previously we had all kinds of interbreeding of different types of plants to build all the characteristics that you wanted in your flowers. So what happened is it seems that the genetic profile of the flower was allowed to revert back to the original genetic structure of the flower. We've got another picture here of rhubarb that we accidentally grew in the backyard. Ricky Ormus, the tree that wasn't looking too good, and I guess the roots of the tree were all tangled in with the rhubarb. So we ended up getting rhubarb leaves that were 3 feet in diameter, or 3 feet across, and just enormous stalks. You could make a huge rhubarb crisp with only like 3 or 4 stalks. And at the same time in the organic farmers market here, you needed a clutch of about 10 rhubarb stalks to give you the same volume as a single stalk from the backyard. So again, we've only had small examples of this from our own experience. We need more people using this and trying these things out. But it has the potential to allow genetically modified products to correct themselves, at least in the next generation, if not this generation.
It's pretty amazing.
Well,
watch out, Monsanto, you've met your match. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's, this is important stuff.
Yeah.
And we need fresh, sharp young minds looking at this, becoming aware of this, and looking into this. This can change many, many things, and this is important.
So Ormus is found everywhere. It's found in the air we breathe, in the water, in our food. It's found in plants. It's pretty much everywhere, right?
Yeah, Ormus is it's a critical part of all living material, plants, animals. It's also it's in seawater. We extract Ormus from seawater in concentrations. We extract Ormus from water. The closer to the source of a spring, you usually will find more Ormus. The way to determine this is by the amount of precipitate that comes out of the water. You will get more closer to the source of a spring. So water is a very critical source for Ormus. It can also be made from any organic material, anything that lives now or anything that has previously lived. There's a very good book on all of the different processes for making Ormus. It's a compilation of I think it covers about 15 or 20 different processes of making Ormus from different materials. That book is available. I believe it's, I forget the name of it, Ormus, A Modern Day Alchemy. And I believe that that's available on Amazon and probably a few other of the book suppliers as well. The lady that wrote it spent an inordinate amount of time collecting all this information. It's very professionally done, and it's a really good reference point if you want to start to work with this material.
What's her name?
Chris Emmons.
Chris Emmons.
Yeah, E-M-M-O-N-S. And like I say, it's a start point, but it's also a good reference point. If you want to work with Ormus, it's like anything. First of all, you have to know about it. That's your awareness. Then you have to educate yourself about it. It's like anything else, any other process. It's the same thing. So if you want to investigate this, Chris Emmons' book is available from Amazon, and it's a good place to start.
And she also talks about how to make it as well?
Well, yeah, the
Or
book covers quite a number of different methods that people have used to make Ormus materials. We use what's called the wet method. There is a dry method, there is a lye burn method. There's a number of different methods that they go into in different capacities. So some of this is going to affect different people different ways because of your knowledge level of working with, chemistry, etc., or your interest. It's primarily your interest. There's nothing that's, ridiculous. I mean, it's all something that you can learn to deal with. I prefer the wet method because part of my beliefs are that because everything that happens in your body happens at the 100-degree temperature barrier, I like to work with materials where we're not working with excessive heat, because when you have excessive heat, you start to create new substances and alter substances, and that's not what we want to accomplish here. Anything that you eat and digest, everything is done at your 98.6 or 39 degrees Celsius body temperature. So everything that we require can be done at those temperatures, and we just try to stay with the wet method precipitate because it works within those temperatures, and we're not going to start to create substances that we can't deal with. Anytime you have over 105 degrees, you start to destroy enzymes either in the food that you were eating or probably in your body as well if any part of it should ever get that warm. That's why we have a cooling system. Ormus can also be made by a process called fractional freezing. So in the winter, if you're in a cold enough area, you can collect a 20-quart pail of water, and as it freezes, you remove the ice. And again, it'll freeze the next day, remove the ice. And by the time you get this whole process done through and you've got maybe an inch left in the bottom, you will notice that this water has all gone milky white. So what's happened is the Ormus that's in the water has been fractionally frozen out of the water and concentrated in the material that's left. So you get an Ormus-rich precipitate material that way. Another example of this is if anyone's ever watched programs on life that grows in the Antarctic or the Arctic under the ice. We believe the reason for this is as this ice freezes, the Ormus material moves out of the ice and concentrates on the layer underneath the ice. So there's an enormously Ormus-rich layer there which helps to facilitate this fantastic Arctic and Antarctic growth, which supplies all the krill, which supplies the whales, which supplies an enormous amount of the biomass of sea life. There's a chart on Barry Carter's website. His website is subtleenergies.com, and there's a chart on there. I think it's a 8.5 by 11 page, printed both sides, of results that have been garnered so far of amounts of Ormus in Ormus-rich foods. Now, all foods, we believe, will have some kinds of Ormus. Different plants will concentrate different types. Some of this will likely be on the behalf of the plant to nurture itself. When we consume plants, we consume second-hand nurturing in a lot of ways. So we don't know everything about this. If you have carrots that are grown in volcanic soil, one measurement had 121 micrograms of Ormus rhodium and 107 micrograms of Ormus iridium. However, if the carrots are grown in depleted soil, like where I live, they've been farming carrots in the same place, which was a drained swamp for over 100 years. And the only fertilizer put in to grow these things now are the conventional, the phosphorus and the nitrogen and so on, and that's it. So you grow a carrot that looks like a carrot, but all of the nutrients that should be in the soil that are garnered by the carrot that it doesn't need, that are passed along to us, they're no longer there. This is what happens with monoculture. It absolutely depletes all of the soil. Your corn might look like corn, but really it's not much more than a ghost of corn. You know, and that's it. It's deplete of all of the excess materials the corn doesn't need, but we do. This is why you got to get organic.
Could you talk a bit about aloe vera and Ormus?
Yeah, aloe vera is one of the plants that they have had a look at. And aloe vera, many people will cut an aloe vera leaf and use it on a burn, and it gives very good relief. Aloe vera is one of the plants that accumulates Ormus rhodium, especially in its natural environment, which is the western U.S. and desert areas and down to Mexico and so on. If you grow aloe in different areas with different soils, you may have different amounts of concentration of this. Again, it's an area where there's no extensive studies that have been done. But part of the thing, if you've ever used aloe on a burn, you'll see it actually has good effects. It also has very good effects if you make aloe shakes and drink aloe and so on. It's a very calming effect for the stomach. And it's also something that if you were to dry the aloe out and burn the aloe, you would also have a concentration of the Ormus rhodium in the ash. Again, these are materials that are hard to measure, but if you take the Ormus rhodium and you make it into the mix or the residue from the burnt aloe plant, and then you use that on a burn, then you will see. So we have to judge a lot of the effects of Ormus by the end effect. The chemistries aren't completely known, and the chemistries aren't regarded by the mainstream because they are deviant chemistries working with the monatomic materials, of which mainstream chemistry knows next to nothing. And until they start to open up and start to investigate this, we sort of have to go by the results that we see. Now, when people take Ormus, you will see certain results that we've already talked about. If you take your Ormus and you take a teaspoonful that you would normally take for a day, put that into a gallon of water, and then use this either to soak seeds that you're going to plant or use this to water your plants. You can start to do this with some of your indoor plants. Mm-hmm. And this video right now is being made the beginning of December in Canada. About 5 weeks, and this is our shortest days of the year, about 5 weeks of watering. After you water your plants with Ormus, you will start to see some significant changes in them. You will see new growth. You will see more brilliant leaf growth. We found certain plants that usually never flowered, especially that time of year in the shortest exposure to light, would start to flower. So it's interesting to see.